Hey,
We in there. We in there.
yay! Can we even talk about that?
Word. Yo, we should crowdsource a theme song.
Oh my God, that's a good idea. Crowdsource a theme song.
Word up.
I love this. Okay, so if you guys know what's up with the theme song, we're crowdsourcing right now.
Yeah. So, yes, this is. Can we even talk about that?
Genius.
We're opening by discussing a theme song.
Yes.
Which would definitely be, you know,
Well, it would be more fun for when we're opening.
I know,
Like
right?
when we're first turning it on, it would just be more fun, I think.
Word. Let me just. I want to make sure that. Yeah. Okay.
I tagged you.
Gotcha. Um. Yeah, I'm trying to get focused. My focus. I'm a little foggy brain today.
Same.
You know.
It's the way things are right now, I think.
And I think in general, yeah, it is kind of the way things are right now.
Life is hard.
I think that we, just to add on, to just check in with each other, like, yo, how are you doing?
Serious.
You
I'm all
know,
right with that.
you know.
Why don't you start? How are you doing? Oh, you
I
first, buddy.
my brain is foggy.
Yes, dude.
My
Yes.
brain is foggy, and I wish and it's taking me longer to do certain things
Yeah.
than it usually takes me to.
Right.
Even the process stuff right now, like it's a combination of a couple of things. One, my allergies the last few days have been on the warpath.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's ragweed season,
Mm-hmm.
and I swear this is mutant ragweed over here.
Ah.
All the other things, whatever's in the atmosphere. So the last couple of days, I pretty much have been taken out.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But
dude, allergies kill me too.
yeah, but like I'm learning.
Right.
I'm in recovery state right now. But overall, I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
good. How things with you on your end?
Listen, I'm alive. I've managed to keep all of my children alive and my pets alive. And so I call that a win. And I
Hey,
leave it at that most
I'm with
days.
you. I'm
I
with
am
you.
like, school started. So I got the Rona, which, fortunately was not as bad for me as it was for some. I was knocked out for like 2 days, but I happened
Mhm,
to be knocked out for 2 days and then like knocked out for 2 days and then still like 3-4 days of like, whoo, coming back to life.
mhm, mhm.
Um, and that all happened literally right as school was starting. And so my two youngest, my 4-year-old and my nearly 3-year-old, Ishai will be 3 next week on Tuesday.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
But so they're not in school, but then I have, first grade, third grade, eighth grade.
Mhm,
So school, and I homeschool all of them anyway. So homeschool started. Then we had several deaths in our family. Literally, like it was not even a whole 90-hour span between finding out we had lost our first person to finding out we lost our third person. So I just like, I don't know, man, everybody's alive. My kids, we're all good. Everybody's been getting meals, remembering to brush their teeth. And the rest of it is just kind of like a blur. We wake up every day, we go to bed every night. And we're pretty happy. Like nobody's miserable. So I think based on the bare minimum, I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking.
There you go. There you go. I think this is where we are in general nowadays, in terms of just like, like, oh, we survived. Oh, we good.
We're still here.
You know what I'm
High
saying?
five. All right, moving
You
forward.
know,
Yes, dude.
right? I am a fan of transitioning from just surviving to thriving.
Word.
Um, but right now, I feel you. Just like some days, it's like, yo, I made it through the day.
That's enough.
Right. That's how I feel.
Good job.
Right.
Good job.
That's how I
Yep.
feel. It's kind of funny too that in this episode we're gonna pretty much jump into a heavy topic.
Yeah.
You know, um, time. It's I want to say a timely topic, but the reality is that
So embarrassing.
it's always been
That's
a
what I mean.
topic.
It's so embarrassing. It is almost 2022. We don't have flying cars. There's no
What a flying car.
jetpacks.
Right.
Women
With
still
jetpacks.
are in charge of their own uterus. Shit's
Oh,
weird. I don't understand. I'm like, how is this real life? Like, I understand the conversation. I understand that the conversation needs to happen. I am annoyed about why it still needs to happen, especially in the age of COVID. Here's the thing that I think is interesting. Obviously, everybody knows I love several people that live in Texas. Like, I love them very, very much. Your state is garbage. I'm so sorry. But like, how at the same time that people, and this isn't new news, but it's like people are like, you can't force me to get a vaccine. My body, my choice. Unless you're a woman and you get pregnant, in which your body, some old Republican white dude's choice, and you know, you're just going to do what you're told. I can't imagine like having to travel states away. The whole thing is weird. It's not just that it's 2022 and we're still having this conversation. It's that it's 2022 in the middle of a pandemic where lots of people are screaming from the rooftops that they should have choice when it comes to their body. And then it's just like blinders on when it comes to this. I don't understand. It's very, very bizarre to me, because I'm a firm believer that people should have choice and bodily autonomy. I don't think we should be forcing people to vaccinate. I don't think it's wise. I don't think it's humane. I think it's very weird to force anybody to do anything with their body under any circumstances ever, anytime. And so I just see it across the board, like bodily autonomy is bodily autonomy.
Right.
The end. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because, you know, you have people who are on some cognitive dissonance or just like contradiction within their whole self, how the way they move,
Yes.
who will literally hold these two ideas in the same space and they're not compatible, meaning that you will literally have someone who's out there yelling, you know, you can't force me to mask, yada, 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 yada,
So
you know, my body, my choice. But that same person will turn around and be like, oh yeah, nah, let's get rid of, you know,
abortion is not okay. No.
You know, so it's interesting to find, you know, what I should say appears to be cognitive dissonance, because the reality is that, you know, that the whole abortion thing is a symptom of a greater issues and greater type of, you know, it's layered, right?
Yeah.
So on the surface, it seems like a person, you know, doesn't it's having like two contradictory ideas, but in reality it's really, really in tune with really how this whole country has always moved forward. Meaning, like, even in its founding, when you do like the Constitution and all the documents and everything, when they're talking about, you know, all men are created equal, we know that wasn't true, right? We know that they didn't believe that, and they didn't practice.
It's like a few lines down, they were like, except for
right. It was only for rich white male landowners, right?
Yeah.
And so that's still the same thing. That's the unsaid information behind these things. So when a person's like, you know, you know, I should be able to do what I want to in terms of, you know, masking or not masking, what they're really, really saying is, as a white person,
I don't have to care.
I don't give a fuck, and I could do what the fuck I want.
You can't.
You know what I'm saying?
Me. Yeah.
And that's the same thing with abortion too. Like,
oh yeah.
At first, behind abortion, it just seems like, you know, this whole contradictory to the other thing, but the reality that there's so much of that plays in terms of white fear of extinction, right?
Right.
So, like, we were always telling people, it's just like, yo, and as much as you know, it goes in a particular direction, the reality is that they're really, really fearful of the growth trajectory of, you know, Black, Indigenous, people of color versus white people, right?
Yes. Yeah,
so that's also part of woven into why they kind of push this thing, because the other reality is that, you know, Roe versus Wade, all outside of all that stuff, they've been fucking with, you know, Black, Indigenous, women of color bodies forever,
Oh
right?
yeah.
This is not new, you know.
There's been forced sterilizations. That's the other thing. It's just like the history of the way Black women in this, I mean, just Black Indigenous women of color have been treated in this country around reproductive rights is just like mind blowing. It's just, it's yes, what you
Yeah,
were
yeah,
saying.
it's
Yeah,
crazy because some of the stuff that I study, you know, I'm of course I'm thinking that sterilization, you know, stopped like in the 20s or whatever. Yo, there's literally been groups of Black women that I know of, like in the 70s and stuff, that were
right,
sterilized. You
right.
know, when they first started doing interferon, in terms of as a birth control practice, they were sterilizing young Black women.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so like, so and it's funny because now white women are trying to come for Black Indigenous women of color on this abortion thing and be like, yo, like, why aren't you, you know, as up in arms as we are? The reality is that Black and Indigenous and women of color have always been fighting this fight from the
It's not
forefront.
new. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yep.
the reality is white women don't want to take direction, right?
No, no.
So like their answer to this is to do this great big women's march once again,
Yeah, you
um
guys march
on the
around.
Capitol and cosplay fucking what's the damn show? Oh, Handmaid's Tale. So they're all going to dress up as like, yeah, yeah, that's
That's
the idea,
embarrassing for all of us. All
right?
right.
It
Handmaid's Tale. Isn't that
yeah,
basically just like slavery?
the Handmaid's Tale basically they
I
all
haven't
the
watched it.
I read the book, you know,
Mm,
back in the day, and I watched.
yeah,
There was a couple of other movie interpretations of it that I watched in the past.
yeah.
But the reality is all it is just like white women waking up to like, oh my, they could do this to us, but without realizing like, oh my, they've been doing this to Black and Indigenous women of color since, you know, forever.
That's how
So
it felt. It was like, oh, you're forced to have babies. Isn't that current? Like, there's a population of women that are forced to basically be the
yep,
breeders,
yep,
and it's like, oh, okay, so just like raping your slaves to keep
right,
you. Cool story. Why would
yeah,
I watch that? I don't. I don't.
right.
It's yeah.
Sorry, that's my family history.
I have you seen this caramel skin here? I don't know that
Right,
that's all consent, my friend. There's a
right. So
long
like this,
history there.
so they're upset about this, and it's interesting to me, you know, to watch it just unfold because it seems that they will learn from the last march that they did, women's march on
Well, where
Washington,
they
where
put like pussies as
yeah, the pussy
hats and
hats,
stuff.
yeah, the pussy
Oh, they're
hats,
so hardcore. You guys are rebels.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Look at me, my yarn vagina on my head. I'm hardcore,
Listen,
you know,
punk rock.
right? So the a big part of the discussion also is that
Why?
I never approach anything without the intersection of race. All right. So for
We
instance,
cannot afford to do that.
we
Yeah.
can't afford to. We
Mm-hmm.
can't afford to. It just doesn't work.
It's not how
So
it
if you're
goes.
talking about whether you're talking about feminism, whether you're talking about homophobia, whether you're
Right.
talking about the patriarchy, I need to see the intersection of race there because you know what you're saying might mean something totally different to me, right?
Yes.
And this is what this goes into. So it's funny because check on yo, you get a chance to check on IG on Kokai's he has an interesting interaction with this white woman.
Oh no, he's like comments.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But this is funny because
Oh,
basically
okay.
it proves my point, which is many white women are getting upset that Black women and Indigenous women and women of color are calling them out about the Texas thing, right? Because white women's perspective is, oh, it's the patriarchy and white men are voting to take away our autonomy, right?
The white men that you voted into positions of power are the ones. How
Exactly.
did it's just like,
Bingo.
how do you miss this shit? People are
Bingo.
so weird. I
You hit
cannot.
it right on the money, you know. But yeah, no, they don't miss it. They ignore it because once again, many times what they want to do is utilize, you know, Black, Indigenous, women of color, that block for their own particular purposes,
Right.
right? And a very
Yeah.
particular agenda. Um, and so, you know, it's not that, you know, Black and Indigenous people, women of color don't care about abortion, but they're like, yo, we need some accountability here.
Well,
You know what I'm
right.
saying?
Right.
You all need to realize that, you know, if over freaking 50% of white women
That's
in
y'all.
the state of Texas voted
Yeah.
for these dudes,
Right.
guess what? Yes,
It's
you
on
are
you.
right. Right. You're culpable. And until that is addressed, then we really don't have anything to talk about. We'll keep fighting the fight the way that we've been fighting the fight, this whole time.
We're good. Thank you so much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't want to come to your cosplay.
Yeah, I'm really not interested in whatever weird pussy hat you guys have this year.
Right. Right. Yeah. So like this is
Silly.
so like that intersection is important,
Right.
to understand, because we can't keep reacting to things that are only in the interest of white people, right?
Right.
We have to,
Right.
we have our own agenda, we have our own protocols, we have our own things that are important to us,
Right.
and we can't. It's the same game in terms of trying to shame us for stuff that they've
Fucking
done.
always, dude. Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Whether it's
Yes.
voting people in office, they're always like, yo, black people been voting forever. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like our turnouts, there's nothing wrong with our
That's
turnout.
why they're
You know
trying
what
to
I'm saying?
disenfranchise all of us. Like, what are you talking about? If we weren't showing up and voting, they wouldn't be going out of their way to make it difficult for us to vote.
Right.
Hi.
So yeah, that's the thing. Like we have our own agenda, and it's important. And just because you have your own particular agenda, don't just calling on us all the time just to
Right.
basically show up and then not have a quote unquote seat at the table, right?
Right.
So
Right.
they plan a march on Washington. It's like, where are the Black and Indigenous women of color on your steering committee?
Right. Oh,
You
but
know
they're
what I mean?
not. There aren't any. You
They're
don't see
not.
them because they're not there. They don't
Right,
come over
right.
here.
Or they only allow them up there if they basically disenfranchise themselves from anything
Right.
that has to do with melanin.
This reminds me of Barbara Walters. I know that this is kind of random, but it's like not a huge. I can appreciate what Barbara Walters accomplished, but at the same time, I've always felt like Barbara Walters accomplished what Barbara Walters accomplished by like rolling over and being one of the guys, not necessarily in like a in like a abusive or like mean way to other women. I don't mean it like that. But her whole approach, her style, her, you know what I mean? She disciplined herself to behave as the men that were already running things so she could get somewhere. And it's like, I mean, she got somewhere and I appreciate that. But at the same time, it's just like, you didn't do it on your terms. You didn't pave a way for women. You paved a way for women to behave like men if they wanted to get somewhere. Do you know what I mean? To like take on the kind of business. I don't mean that she was like,
No, I get you 100%.
And that's what I see so much of. It's just like, you're not paving a way for anybody but imposters. You want a bunch of fucking posers on your team so it looks diverse and cool, but really it's like it's that melting pot thing. We all got to like melt into your pot of weird fucking ideologies, and whatever, and nobody wants, maybe not nobody, but like nobody of any integrity wants to do that. That's not why we're here.
Right.
That's not what we do. And you have to take into consider, like, the United States, first of all, the maternal mortality rate in the United States is garbage. Why are so many women dying during pregnancy and childbirth? It's fucking embarrassing. Yes. And women of color, Black, Indigenous, Alaskan Native women, like all Native women in this country, women of color in this country are like 3-4 times more likely to die than white women. Yes. The cards, the whole thing is different. The whole thing is different. If it's a different situation. We had Black Breastfeeding Week back in August. Whoo! Shout out to Kristen T, who runs Motherwise. She is, I mean, when I think of an ally, I always picture Kristen. Kristen is like beautiful woman. She's got the blonde hair and the blue eyes, and she is just like, she looks like a young Mother Goose. She's just like so inviting and warm and beautiful and like, and when she hits you with it, she's just so fucking smart and articulate. And the way she was shutting down the white women on her page, like, this is why Black Breastfeeding Week matters. And this is why we need to pay attention to Black women's experience of pregnancy and childbirth and breastfeeding. Like, I never have to say anything. She's one of those people that's why she's an ally. I never have to say nothing. I can see things on her page. Sometimes I can see things on my page that she's also commented on, and I can just be like, Kristen's got it. To say nothing. I don't even need to get mad about this. Because it's like the experience of women of color in this country is not the same as white women's, and that's why it needs to be treated as the issue that it is, and not as like the issues they think that they're having.
Right.
Does it make sense?
No, it's so simple that it makes sense. You know, yet the reality is that they try to make it seem more complicated, or that it take more energy.
But they try to say that we're the ones being divisive. Oh, you need a Black breastfeeding week. You're the one who's being divisive. It's like, no, we were already divided. And that's why we're like, hey, over here, we're going to need you to pay attention to what's happening over here. It's like, oh, there was unity all over. Black and white people were just like loving on one another until we were just like, hey, we want a Black breastfeeding week. And then the division came. It's like, that's not how it works. That's not the case.
Right. Stop. Yeah. Like, stop. Like, you don't even believe that yourself.
No, they just want to be mad.
Right, and they want to control the narrative, and yes. I'm always a big proponent of controlling the narrative, and this is why all those things are important, to get that information out. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? In terms of to circle back with Black breastfeeding week, just the whole notions and the whole history of Black midwives and Black doulas and all this kind of stuff ties directly into this, because it was white people, not just white men, white people who disenfranchised, Black midwives, Black doulas.
The dirty, talking about how nasty and unhygienic they were. And
right.
Yeah.
So so they play a hand in this, and this is why when we interact, we have to make sure that we always throw in that intersection or that element of race. Like I said, I'm not talking about feminism, without mentioning womanism,
right?
Or not mentioning, Black Indigenous women of color. Like, I listen to them instead of white feminists.
Yes,
that's just what I do.
Yes. Well, that's why they're there, because white feminists aren't saying the things that Black Indigenous women of color need. So it's like, so womanism became necessary. Oh, you guys created a division. Nah, bitch, the division existed, and so we labeled it. We just gave it a name.
Right.
Feminists are over there. We're womanists over here. It's very different. And that wasn't even womanism, like the 80s or the 90s.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even that, because it took that long for, I don't know, I guess women just to kind of get exhausted and be like, okay, well, we're tired of not being included in the conversation and a part of what's going on. So we'll just have to do our own little thing over here.
Right. And then also what happens is it puts a timeline on certain things that's not a true timeline. So for example, like if you let them tell it, feminism started at a particular date in the 60s or 70s, you know what I'm saying? But the reality is that they're all instances of freaking Black women, Indigenous women, women of color being in leadership positions or in leadership roles that that predate whenever they want to give a title, a date for feminism. And we have different systems that are outside of this particular society's traditions and systems by which women are definitely, the movers and shakers and in control. You know what I'm saying? Now, do we have issues with our own communities to address? Hell yeah, we got issues with our own communities to address.
Part of the community.
But the reality is that the notion in terms of women being all that they can be, or having freedom of movement and thought, and being involved in government and high positions of governing and shit like that. That shit is old as we are on the planet.
Serious, yes.
You know what I'm saying? So the other thing is that they always try to present as though, that they're the innovators, that it's brand new, that it hasn't happened before. And then once again, they always center themselves. So for instance, when they always talk about women got the right to vote in, blah, 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 women's suffrage, it's like, no.
That's not what happened.
White women got the right to vote, and thank you again for centering yourself and making white women the default for all womankind on the planet.
White women got the right to vote, and intentionally left Black women out.
Exactly.
It's not like they were fighting. It was like, hey man, the best we can do is give you white girls votes. That's not what happened.
Right.
They here's what I've always thought has been interesting too, because I've had conversations, I've had some full-on arguments, but without fail, all the white women close to me have always asked me if I identify as a woman or if I identify as a black first. I've literally been called a black, but that's another conversation.
You've been called a black?
It's another conversation. Just like another day. But how do I identify? Like which? And I was always just like, I mean, I would identify as black first. I mean,
right.
You know, because, but I can't think of a time in my life where anybody was ever like, hey, you know that girl Lisa? That girl Lisa. No, it's always, you know, that black, what is she? Is she black? Is she Hawaiian? That Mexican girl? The one with the black curly hair. You know who I'm talking about. No one has ever, you know, my color or you know, my non-whiteness for sure has always stood out and been what, you know, a way that people have. So I've said that. And part of the conversation that always happens when I have that is why you don't think, you know, it matters that you're a woman also and you should identify. And it's just like, who was the wet nurse for all the babies that were at home while women were marching so they could have the right to vote? Who was at home cooking all the meals, cleaning the house, getting things set up for your white husband and your white children while you were off fucking all pissed the fuck off? We didn't even get to vote. We don't get to vote. Nobody's listening to us. And it's just like, the fuck, why would I be, you guys didn't include me in that, why would I include myself in that? It does not make sense. I am not, especially that first wave of feminism. First wave of feminism was fucking garbage.
Right.
First wave of feminism can suck a whole dick. It literally, it just doesn't make any sense. It's like, it was literally a bunch of white ladies were upset that even with all the things that they've been handed, like maids and slaves, and, do you know what I mean? They're still mad because they're not, and it's fine. It's like, whatever, you have a right to be upset about it because women of any color should not have been treated that way, period. But it's like, women of any color should not have been treated that way, period. And you guys had zero fucking problem, just whoop. As long as we're taken care of, we don't care what happens to them. And I don't understand the confusion for women, especially that know the history of feminism and understand the history of white women and black women and other women of color in this country, how you can be confused about that. How could you ever expect me or women who look like me to confidently consider themselves feminists, right? Over womanists. You should know these things if you're having the conversation. If you're trying to ask or whatever, just like, hey, what's your take on feminism? That's one thing. But the many times that I've had to defend why I'm not a feminist and why you won't catch me calling myself a feminist is like mind blowing to me, because like, y'all are educated. You just need to like step out of your own little box and understand what else is going on, because there's layers to it. And abortion, look, like abortion especially, it's one thing to be like, oh, all babies are a gift and la 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 la, when you haven't been beaten and raped by, you know, slave owner after slave owner after slave owner. And I'm not saying that, like, you know, everyone wanted abortions or that it's like a huge deal to have access to abortions. I'm not trying to speak for an entire community. We're not a monolith, but I'm saying like the experience is different from the beginning of Black women in this country. And so when it comes to things like bodily autonomy, that's why it's autonomy, because each person is like different and their experience has been different and their needs are going to be different. It was Yamani Hernandez. I got to find that article, but she had this quote where she said, Black liberation is not measured in numbers of Black births. It's measured by thriving, autonomous Black lives. Autonomous Black lives. So it's like, look, our liberation isn't going to come from how many babies we can have. I have 5 kids. I love having babies. I'd have 5 more if I could. I'm not trying to say, but her point is like, it's not how many children we have, right? It's how many can we take care of? How many can we be good to? How many can we raise to have a thriving, autonomous Black life? And that's exactly what they don't want to happen. And forcing women, it's not, look, you could have all the money in the world, you could own a home, you could have a great relationship. If you are not emotionally, spiritually, mentally in a place where having a baby is a good idea, it's not going to fucking work out well. That's all there is to it.
It's not.
You know what I mean? It's not just, and the conditions that people are living in of any color, quite frankly, in this country, but especially any impoverished people of any color. And, you know, we still know that the majority of the impoverished people in this country are people of color. It's a lot. It's stressful. It's incredibly stressful. My favorite thing to do when I was pregnant with Ezekiel, which was like 14 years ago now, God, he's so old. But they had just opened a Planned Parenthood right next to the college that I was going to. And people were outside protesting every fucking Wednesday. It was every Wednesday with their abortion is murder signs, blah, blah, blah. And I literally, on my due date with Ezekiel, I showed up to take my midterm. And the last like trimester of my pregnancy, when I was big, it was obviously I was having a baby. I rocked my pro-life, pro-choice shirt every Wednesday.
Wow.
Every Wednesday.
Wow.
Let them know, because it's just like, this is a choice that I'm making to have this baby. Right. Just like it would be a choice that I was making to have an abortion. I did have an abortion when I was younger. Mm-hmm. And I don't, like a lot of women's experiences, a lot of women say this, it's just like they are concerned going into it that there's going to be like guilt and shame and all these things. And I was relieved once the abortion was over. I honored the situation that I was in, and I had a lot of reverence for what I was doing. Like I understood that it was like a very big crossroads. But when it was over, I felt relieved. I had a new motivation to start getting my shit done and get back to my life. My hormones regulated themselves. I felt better. And then I always worried that like I would have, when I actually had a child and became a mother, that I would be like overwhelmed with guilt and fear. I tell you what, dude, when they put Ezekiel in my arms, I remember thinking, you are the baby that I can take care of. I am so glad that I did not bring that other child into a situation where I could not have taken care of them and I could not have kept them safe. Like, this is what being a mom should be. That feeling that like, fuck yeah, like I can take care of you and I'm so glad you're here and like, we're going to do this together. I didn't have any of that. I did not have that support, right? I did not have the mental or emotional capability to be there for that first baby that I conceived the way that I have for my children since then. Right. And I was not overwhelmed with guilt or regret. Like I said, I had a lot of reverence for the situation that I was in, and I knew that it was serious. I don't know anybody who's ever had an abortion that took it as like a casual, like, oh my God, just abort it. I've never in my life, like.
Right, that's part of their narrative.
It's such a weird thing because it's just like, yeah, I don't. And here's the thing, even I'm not saying there aren't women like that. Maybe there are women that are like that. Like, what is the underlying root of that? What is going on in society that we have women, right, who really just feel like they need to duck that responsibility and don't think it's a big deal.
Right.
That's not, sorry. And I've always thought that also, like if we had a society where people were taken care of and there was support and there was compassion and there was understanding for the huge transition. I have 5 kids and my life shifted every single time one of them was born. Not one time did I give birth to a baby and then be like, oh man, I've done this already. It's easy. It's easy. It was hard every single time. Every single time it was hard and it was scary and it was adjustment. And if we had a society, a culture that was set up to be more supportive of that, I have a feeling we would see less abortions. I don't think they'd go away. Some women don't want to have fucking kids and that's their right. But I think that we would see less abortions if we had, if the old, it takes a village were a real thing and the village was actually like healthy and safe and supportive. Right. And not this shit show that we're all living in. It's like our village is garbage.
This is the other part of what they do. It's just like, this is why I hate the term pro-life and pro-choice personally. I always tell people I'm pro-life and pro-choice. I'm both. You know what I'm saying?
It's true.
Under ideal conditions, I advocate that, children should have a right to, come into existence. Yet, I also advocate that each person gets to make that decision on their body. You know what I'm saying? And that there's some situations that, just like, we ain't even talking about this shit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And
yes.
It's crazy to me, like the criminal ones, like they're literally forcing, little girls who fucking have been raped to have children. Like that, you can't win me over with that.
The trauma, dude. I can't even.
You can't win me over with that. And then
Never.
the the whole thing also in terms of just like you said, like it's always a larger issue, right? It's always
Yes.
society. It's always
Yes.
so it's not just simple, just like you'll just have the baby. I saw this video and it was a great. It was the protesters out in front of an abortion clinic, and the person who was going across and interviewing each of the women who who were holding signs. It's like, yeah. So how many children have you adopted? How many children have you adopted?
Yes.
None of them, right?
Not one.
Not one. So this whole pro-life notion is like a farce because it's just like all you are worried about is that that child is carried to term. You're not worried about the quality of life of that child afterwards. In fact,
No. Yeah.
in many cases, you will actually vote for practices or governmental practices that are detrimental to young mothers. You know
They
what I'm
need
saying?
that divide. They have to keep that separation between the haves and the have-nots. And it's
Right.
like it's almost like they think it's your punishment is having that baby and having to struggle with that baby. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? It's like they don't. That's what I mean. There's no compassion. People don't understand.
Well,
It's very hard.
it's also filtered into just part of the whole capitalistic kind of
Absolutely.
industry system,
Right.
meaning that they literally just want to birth more workers.
Yes.
You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
that's what I mean. It's a division.
Right. So like you birth it, if they push for everybody to carry their children to term, and you don't have the support, then yeah, the trajectory of that child is kind of already predicted, right?
Right.
Because you already could basically project the trajectory of a person's life depending on what zip code they were born in, which is
Right.
crazy. You know,
Right.
so like they know, it's just like, okay, this many people are going to have this many children, and they're not going to have any resources. So the only recourse that they're going to have is to be a worker in my
Minimum wage
factories,
job.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
To
Yep.
make me
Yep.
more
Yep.
richer. You know what I'm saying? So all
Yeah.
those things are part of it, intertwined with this language of religion, which once again is very, very cherry picking. You know what I'm
Always.
saying?
Yes.
Because most people don't realize like there are literally uh what you call it. There are literally rules and regulations by which abortion is accepted in many religions.
Yeah.
We talk about religions in the book. We're talking about Judaism and Christianity, but the way they postulate it is like
Agrees.
the Bible, like this is what it says right here.
Right.
And this
Right.
this is the other crazy thing too.
I
I
wasn't
know we
aware
put
of
it in the
that.
hashtag as Texas Taliban, but the
Mm.
other thing which is funny is that the a lot of countries that are uh, Islamic countries literally have uh, rules and regulations that allow for abortion.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, yeah,
I was not
exactly.
aware of this.
Well, yeah. See, this
Right.
is
It's
once
part
again
of the narrative. It's part of
part
the
of the
thing
narrative.
they
It's just like
do.
all those people, watch out for them because they're going to do such bad things to us if we let them over here. Meanwhile, white
Crazy.
terrorists are here doing that shit.
Right.
Since fucking 9/11, we just, um, you know, I'm about to say celebrated, but we just acknowledged 9/11, right?
Right.
And,
Right.
so,
Yeah.
and somebody said like we haven't had thankful for all people that sacrificed their life. We haven't had a terrorist attack since then. It's like no, we haven't had a
A
terrorist attack that
foreign terror.
a foreign terrorist attack, but white boys here have been shooting fucking shit up. Okay,
Constantly since
churches,
2001,
right? Churches,
running
fucking
over people.
yeah, Las Vegas, all those shits. But they don't.
Concerts. Yeah, dude. All kinds of crazy shit.
But
What?
no, they don't exist. They don't. We don't acknowledge that. You know what I'm saying? Because we're going to control this narrative. So it's the same way with these Islamic countries. First of all, they make them seem like monoliths.
Right.
Islamic countries are not monoliths.
Right.
Pakistan is not the same as somewhere in Indonesia. It's not the same as
Not even.
somewhere in West Africa. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So all
They are
these
not the
things,
same.
yeah. So that's that fear tactic. So
Right.
we are trying to project on them. Meanwhile, they're doing that shit here. White people are doing that shit here.
It's insane.
Pardon, so my nose is up bad. Stopped up. Okay.
How that goes.
I know, right?
Yep. Yeah, I always find it interesting when people mention that. Because I'm just not sure how that's not terrorism. And I don't know why it wouldn't be a bigger deal to have domestic terrorism. you expect the other guy to attack you.
Right.
Right. That's why.
Because we fucked up their land. Yeah.
Right. I mean, yeah.
We bombed their land and killed their
Yeah.
children and women and stuff, and then we get surprised when they don't like us.
Serious. Yeah. September 11th is a weird time every year. It really is a weird time every year. Especially, right? I can't say especially because I just said it's a weird time literally every year. It's strange how it's the cognitive dissonance, and I feel like that's just too nice of a word for it. But it is that. It's just like, how can you acknowledge this orange but act like this shade of orange doesn't even exist? It's like, it's literally orange. They're orange. How do you not see the difference here? Yeah.
Because like I said, they do. The ones in power definitely do. The
ones in power, of course, yes.
Yeah, they just spin that narrative, and then they just dig into that one particular spot on people that they know that they will jump through. So it's just like they use religion, you know what I'm saying, to like galvanize the people. You know what I'm saying? Which is crazy to me, because the ones that are using religion to galvanize the people are not even a freaking model of the religions that they're promoting.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like these dudes who are out there voting against abortion, their wives and mistresses they sent off to get abortions.
Right.
You know,
I saw something too. I saw a tweet that was like listing a bunch of times that God ordered the murder of children in the Old Testament. And I was like, but now he's all concerned about, I don't know the Bible well enough. I mean, I recognized a couple of them, but
not just the Old Testament, the New Testament too.
And the New Testament? Well, I know the Old Testament was like super mean, hardcore God, and there's like, I blocked so much of that out.
No, so for instance,
I remember more of the Book of Mormon, quite frankly, than I do the actual
Bible. That's funny. Okay, we're gonna have to talk about why you know the Book of Mormon, but that's
I was raised Mormon.
Stop! How do I not know this about you? Are you fucking kidding me?
I blocked so
Yo,
I blocked a lot of things.
My mind is blown right. Oh yeah, we gotta have another whole talk. Oh, we got a whole show. Mormon. Oh God.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot in the Book of Lehi that I can, and like Nephi also, that I can still remember. It's so weird.
My mind is literally blown.
I know.
My mind is literally blown.
Feeling a little.
I'm gonna come back to that in a second, though.
Yeah.
I just want to make this one point, this one point is that, in the New Testament, you know, after people forget that after Jesus was quote unquote born in the manger.
Yeah.
Why was he in the manger? Why were they looking around for a place to have him? Because Herod, the king at that time,
sent somebody around to kill babies.
Yep.
Because they knew he was coming.
And that's why they ended up
like right.
Yeah, and that's why they fled to Egypt.
Right. Okay.
You know, so and once again that repeats the same slaughter of the innocents that you know the God in the Old Testament did in terms of the firstborn.
Right.
You know, Pharaoh's, all those and stuff. So, and several other times, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, I just don't remember the Bible. I don't. It's weird.
That's funny.
But I recognize that, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's also just such a common story.
It is.
In mythology and like the structure of mythologies. It's like this, you know, coming of a baby that some other guy in power has to stop from happening.
Yep.
It's definitely a thing.
Yeah, no, it's so it's part of their narrative that they want to spin around this whole thing. Like, you know, I don't want to get twisted. I don't want people to misunderstand. We clearly understand that, you know, the right to have an abortion is something that women should have, period.
Yes.
You know, we understand that. The other thing is that we just won't be jumping at your fiddle, though.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like we're not going to make this be the issue when there's these other issues also that you all never ever come through on for us.
It's part of
what I'm saying?
Right.
But now you're going to try to get on, and unfortunately this happens with Black people in general a lot, to Black people, meaning that they want us to do the heavy lifting.
Right.
You know, this is related also, for instance, the new Marvel movie out, Shang-Chi. You know, it's an ill movie. You
I
know what I'm saying?
love Marvel.
It's a breakthrough movie for Asian and Asian Americans, right?
Right, right.
Similar to how Black Panther was for Black people, right? But unfortunately, some of the push has come heavily, unfortunately, from the Asian community. It was like, I hope that y'all are, going to big up this movie the same way that y'all did Black Panther. First of all, we did Black Panther. Y'all didn't help us. You understand what I'm
Right.
saying?
I don't
But
understand. Why would we?
right. Like it's almost like they saw how we did Black Panther.
Yeah.
So they want that same kind of energy from us for their movie.
Well, work with us and we'll have that same energy. Otherwise, we're just going to check out your movie.
We're going to check out the movie anyway. But
right.
the notion that it's our responsibility to make the movie pop is bullshit when you didn't do the same thing for us. Like, that's bullshit. You know what I'm saying?
It's weird. It's kind of a weird expectation. It's like, why do you have that?
But this is pretty much what happens with everything. And this is the history of Black people in America. Meaning, like, the civil rights era started with Black people, right? Yes. And then it bubbled over into other movements that benefited from it without acknowledging it.
Right.
Well, and let me just finish this one. And also without acknowledging it, but who also didn't help with the Black one.
Right. It's like they usurp the energy almost, and then, but they don't reciprocate it at all. Right. I definitely see that in a lot of situations, a lot of movements, especially where it's like, it's not much of a showing up for Black people person, are you? It's like, you really love the support and you can see the similarities and sell that to people. Like, we both have this in common. This is happening to women and Black women, or this is happening to certain, LGBTQ communities and Black people. They try to fight, but then there's not the same like push to be behind. Right. I feel like I see that at least in this area, and maybe because this area is so small, that we all really do kind of rally together. But I feel like I see that a lot in like younger kids, like younger high school, even to like early 20-year-old kids around here, especially, where it's like they're always looking to take something up, like, yo, did you hear that happened? And I appreciate that.
Right. Which is once again why it's important to hold on to that intersectionality terms of Blackness whenever you deal with anything, because what they want you to do is they want you to remove that. And once you remove that, then you are literally part of their agenda. Meaning that white women are, when they say to you, do you see yourself as Black or as a woman? They're not saying, that's not really what they're saying. They're saying, do you see yourself as Black, or do you see yourself aligning yourself with white women? Right.
Because they're saying, do you see yourself supporting me over yourself? Which cause is greater to you? If you had to choose between standing up for people who look like you or people who have the same like physical appearance and or biological makeup, right? Yep. That's what they want to know. And it's like, no, I would not align. I would not take your cause over the cause. I just would not.
And it comes from that same racist notion that in their mind, woman actually means white woman, and they don't fully process that.
They are the standard always. Right. It's so weird. Yes.
Right. So when they say woman, they're actually saying white woman.
Right. Yes. No, I know. I think part of what's go ahead.
No, go.
I think part of what is difficult about actually truly practicing intersectionality within a movement is that means there is a rotating leadership, and people are not good about that.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's very hard to know when it is your place to step up and be like, this is mine, and when it's important to be like, this is yours, or whose is this? Do you know what I mean? And follow other people's lead. Especially, it's hard to find leaders like that, I think. But that is what is required. Do you know what I mean? We're not used to the idea of like a council, like a round table. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And I
mean,
guess even
we
then
are.
there was still a king. That's what I mean. Like, right, we will have, but in this society, and
Right,
people
exactly.
don't know how to, it's just like they take up a cause and then like they're the leader.
Right.
And people listen to them, and it cannot be that way. I don't think it can be that way really anywhere. But if, especially if we're really going to come to a place where we are considering all things and all people, then the leadership has to rotate. There are some
Right.
things that I have a lot of experience. I understand a lot of things. I really believe that about myself. And I believe that other people believe that about me too. There's shit that I don't know still, right?
Yep.
There's experiences I've never had and experiences I can't even kind of put together in my head because I've had zero exposure to them.
Yep.
And so those people who live those lives need to be able to step up and be like, hey, okay, so I know this, and this is what we should do, or right, this is where we should go. This is how we approach it. There's not room for that. And that's where it needs to start, period. And so, and that's right. The basics of that, like the basics of that is we're still at a place where it's like white men are telling women, next time you're pregnant and you have to determine whether or not you're having an abortion, right? Yep. Let me know. That doesn't happen to men. Like, why are you even talking about this? Why are you making decisions about this?
Right.
It is, and why are women especially letting them? I just don't, it's weird. So as long as we're not even to a point where we're allowing basic shit like that. Hey, ladies, what would you like to do with your uterus? Oh, whatever you want. Cool. Okay, carrying on. We're not even there yet. Right. So there's no way to just, the idea of an inclusive anything to me is either like very idealistic people, right? Hopefully they understand they have a lot of work to do, or just like straight up manipulators, just straight up like they'll use the word and they still want to be in charge all the time. They're like, oh no, we're inclusive because I let you show up. Well, this is an inclusive space. You're here.
Listen, that's most of what these corporations are doing. Is
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
The diversity training, that's all white people,
so
and things like this, inclusive, you know, just
right.
You have a spot at the table, but you literally are just a spot at the table. You don't have any power at the table.
They're like, we let you show up. This is right. We've included you.
And like you said, I think it's so important, you know, what you said in terms of about this rotating kind of council leadership. But the problem is that basically this society is very, very hyper focused on one leader for everything.
Power.
And making them an idol almost. Right. You know what I'm saying? But then also is that I feel like white people in general just need to step back and be like, yeah, you're wrong. You've been fucking this shit up forever. Just let these people, you know, take hold of the reins for a while.
Well, and it's only a step, look, it's only a step back because of like how far out of the way they've gone. Nobody's asking, right? It's just like the stuff that is yours is still yours. It's not like, do you know what I mean? Whatever that is, I don't know, but it's like the stuff that, it's just when it comes to certain things, it's literally as simple as like, nobody is asking necessarily men to do less for men. We're just asking you to do less for women. That's all. All the things that apply to men still apply to men. Nobody's changing that. We're just saying, hey, the pregnancy thing, abortion, that belongs to us. And so it's literally that in every context that you could think of. And there are many, and there are contexts that we can't even think of.
Yeah, and that's,
which is weird to think of.
I think it's also weird in terms of, not weird, but I think it's also relevant that, how should I put it? White people think that they know everything.
It happens a lot.
You know, so like literally like a person who is mediocre, you know, is put into leadership positions just by virtue of the fact.
Oh, you white. Know.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just like, that's another thing too. It's just like, yo, y'all have to understand that we're better knowers of this, and y'all need to shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
Right.
Don't talk.
This
you know what I'm saying? You literally don't understand anything. And literally by when they start talking, you see that they don't understand the shit. And it's just like, yo, you're not even embarrassed enough to understand that you don't know shit.
No.
You know, because the way the society is set is they could be mediocre and still rise to the top.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Meanwhile, we cannot be mediocre.
No,
we cannot.
You have to be like above and beyond all the time.
Above and beyond
extra,
to get
special,
the basics.
top notch. Yeah.
Right. And we get the basic. You know, we get basic cable. you know.
It's true.
So yeah,
Yep.
like that shift definitely is important. I think the council is a model
It's
which is in
hard.
a lot of Black, Indigenous, people of color's traditional practices.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? We had checks and balances. In fact, even the whole fucking Constitution of the United States, you know, with some of its checks and balances, comes from Indigenous people.
Right.
You know,
Right. Well, it's just they stack all
the
those
Iroquois
checks and
Confederation.
balances. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You
But they
know.
stack all those checks and balances
Right.
with like sycophants. Just kidding. Very
No, you're not.
considerate, thoughtful
And it's the
people.
truth.
I just, it's just,
No disclaimers. We mean what we say. We
I
said
know. Sorry. The honest to God truth is how I feel.
it.
And it's not even that all of them are necessarily bad people, but there has to be a break, because I don't appreciate the way the Democratic Party handles things like this.
Oh no,
It's just
they're
like, you
pieces of
guys
shit.
need to fight. I'm so tired of like, I love Michelle Obama. Like, I love her. I don't love her. I don't know her, but I mean, I think I don't have any reason to just like hate her or think she is a disingenuous person, right? I think she's sincere. I think whatever. But the whole, when they go low, we go high. It's like, I just don't know how much I agree with you.
Well, if they go low and we go high, if that means that I knock them in the face, then I'm with that.
That's what I mean. It's like,
You know
do
what
I
I'm saying?
get to
That's the
kick
only
as
bit.
I'm going over? Am I like jaw
No.
kick? I don't, there's just like certain things. It's just like, it's not, because I feel like that is part of the pattern that people get caught up in. This should not still be a conversation. I just feel like
Right.
it's up to, we need a Democratic Party or whatever, like some sort of other party besides Republican that's willing to actually fight it out. Like, if you guys want to be dicks about it, let's be dicks about it. I just get tired of it always trying to find common ground, or do you know what I mean? Like, for a country that works together, it's what the fuck are you even talking about? Just do something. It's weird. or start stepping up and fighting and stopping things from happening, instead of just like letting trains run over things and then trying to be like, okay, well, now we're just going to try to rebuild this somehow and start over.
Right.
It's embarrassing.
Well, like someone pointed it out pretty well, is that the Democratic Party only works when they have demonized the person that made them their enemy. And as much as I didn't like Trump, the reality is that the whole political campaign of the Democrats was centered upon removing Trump. And that is a horrible platform if you think about it, because now once he's gone, they are not required to do anything because their only goal was to get rid of Trump.
That's what I'm saying. There's so many things going on. And at least with Trump, he said what he meant. And he meant a lot of really stupid, terrible shit. Like, he was a dumb, horrible.
Right.
But like, I always knew to expect just something bad. Do you know what I mean? I never remember just, you could see him. And I don't know, the Democratic, there's just so many of them. It's embarrassing.
They're all racist. I mean, I hate to put
low
it out
key,
there. Like, it's just a different brand of racism. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the right racism is more like the whole kind of like KKK in your face kind of racism.
Right.
The left racism is more like what people talk
the
about.
Bless your heart racism.
Right. The up north racism is just like, oh, you guys will handle everything. You don't know what you want, because you're not,
Hey, I taught you how to read, slave. So.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
It is.
We'll handle everything. We'll handle everything. So yeah, it's both. And right now, the Democrats are basically fucking impotent in water right now.
It's so sad.
It is really sad because
it's just frustrating, right? It's just like frustrating.
It's
not knowing what to do.
They fight against those further left,
right,
who are about that work, about that business. Right. So they spend time not only, reacting to the Republicans, they also spend time suppressing those who are progressive on their own side.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like their whole thing is just about handling other people instead of like doing the work they're supposed to be
Policy,
doing.
like, right, I know, taking care of
You
actual
know,
things.
they should not have the type of power they have in terms of controlling the house and different things like that, and still be fucking impotent. Like that's just dumb as fuck.
It's frustrating. It's just like, because what do you do about it?
Right.
You have to stay engaged and keep voting. Like, we definitely have to do that.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, I'm so tired of participating with these people.
Yep.
Like, what do we do? Yeah. That's another thing we should talk about sometime, is tiered voting. Hey, are we transitioning into discussing we should do tiered voting? Because something has to happen with the political process anyway. And hey, and Supreme Court justices, that's another thing. It's because it goes back to the abortion. It just doesn't make sense that a Supreme Court justice serves until
we're not even going to talk about that.
Pull the life
That's a
support.
whole big section
like,
about the notorious RBG, about how she just held that seat hostage until she passed. And,
Thanks.
And then it flipped, because no, you should have set your ass down, and another person could have been appointed there. You know, but they're still praising her. And I don't praise her anyway, because she, when Colin Kaepernick was doing his protest, she was all against it and like couldn't understand why he was doing it. Because black people are getting fucking killed by policemen. That's why. Shut the fuck up.
I just don't understand like how people can be so offended by somebody sitting down. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, stop worrying so much about people's body posture. Mind your business. Like,
because he not acted like a good slave.
That's what, and that's why it's like, if you were to really investigate why you're so upset, a person is putting their own body in a particular position that has nothing to do with you unless you choose, right? If you were to really investigate that, it's like, you guys are really all hyped up right now because he's on a knee, because he's there's no way. Nobody gets that mad over somebody sitting in a particular way.
Well,
you need to investigate this shit.
Yeah, the relationship that white America has to sports is really, really very gladiatorial, very, very slave.
Yeah, it's like acceptable slavery.
Right. The way that they yell and talk to these players on the courts and stuff and throw it. I was like, yo, you need to get punched in the face.
Somebody's trying to get hit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Basketball season's coming up. Excited.
Word. All right, Ma.
But yes,
we hit our time.
We did it. We did really good.
Yeah, we did.
Covered a lot of things as usual.
Right? As usual. Welcome to our world, and the whole reason that we decided to do podcasts, because this is literally normal talk.
Right.
This is literally normal talk that we have all the time.
Thanks for listening to us go off. Yeah. Right. It's the intro and the outro that feels weird, because usually I'm just used to like one of the kids freaking out and being like, okay, I gotta go. I'll talk to you later. Having an actual scheduled time is a little different.
So week after next?
Yeah, we'll be back the 29th.
Yes.
Right? Is 14. Yeah, it's the 15th. So yeah, Wednesday, September 29th at 11:11, live here on Facebook, and then we'll get it up to all the platforms. Including what, ALife?
We're on Apple now. on iTunes and Apple.
This is exciting. Yeah, I know you announced it already, but this is fun. I want to say
it's a big deal. You know what I'm saying? There's a whole new demographic and stuff, and for us to get the word out and to talk our shit.
All right. Okay. Well, I love you, and I'll see you later. Thanks for tuning in with us, guys. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Peace.